Hello to all, and thank you for joining us here in this NERD Classics Bicentennial Talk, where we choose to celebrate one of the lesser-known writers in our collection, whose work now turns 200 years old. We chose Nemo Vir as he is responsible for bringing spice, fire, and meat to the cold north. By sharing a bit about him, we hope to widen his audience and urge you to get to know this mysterious traveling romantic and his important work. We will start by talking a little bit about his life. Nemo Vir was born in Copenhagen, Denmark in April 1786. He was the only son of Ingmar Vir, a Lutheran pastor. Even though he had a strict religious upbringing, his parents loved literature, and young Nemo showed his own special interest from an early age. He read the Danish classics of poetry, like Anders Christensen Arebo, poet and Lutheran bishop, known best for his poem Hexaemeron, and Johannes Ewald, who is considered the most important Danish poet of the second half of the 18th century. Vir lived through the golden age of Copenhagen, but on July the 5th, 1795, a raging fire that started in an old nautical base definitively overturned the life of the city as well as his own. The fire burned for 2 days. Over 1,000 homes were decimated, and droves of city dwellers were rendered homeless. Countless historical landmarks in the city were destroyed, among them the Renaissance-era building of the Church of St. Nicholas. Tragically, his father was in the church during the fire, where he perished. Vir's family, alongside many residents, found temporary shelter in the Christianborg Castle ruins. A few months after that, and after noticing how much his father's death had shaken young Nemo, his mother decided to send him to the Jutland Cathedral School. That is where he became friends with Frederick Grundtvig, who, as a pastor, writer, poet, philosopher, historian, teacher, and politician, would later become an emblematic figure of Danish cultural history and help form contemporary Danish national identity. This friendship between schoolmates lasted long, albeit with a few instances where they were separated by distance, and influenced both their lives and work, as they were marked by many shared interests. Both men were brought up in religious homes, loved Scandinavian legends and folklore, were trained in the tradition of European Enlightenment, and forged their faith in logic through Romanticism, as well as the ancient history of Scandinavia. Grundtvig studied theology at the University of Copenhagen and became a pastor in 1800. At the end of his academic life, he started studying Icelandic and Norwegian mythology. Ver also attended the same university to study law and philosophy, where he rekindled his friendship with Grundtvig. During his own university years, he met mathematician and cartographer Caspar Wessel and his brother, poet and dramaticist Johann Hermann Wessel. All three of them became close friends. The conversations he had with the brothers, and especially Caspar's love for maps, birthed in Vir a longing for the unknown and faraway journeys. He was joined by both brothers in 1802 in Copenhagen to watch Henrik Stevens' lectures. Stevens, a philosopher, physicist, and poet who introduced Romanticism to Denmark, was influenced by Schelling, Goethe, and other German philosophers whom he had previously met and studied in Germany, where he returned after a short stay in Copenhagen, leaving his mark on the intellectual life of the city. Vir's meetings at a younger age, as well as a series of tragic incidents, marked his career and his works. In 1803, Denmark was embroiled in the Napoleonic Wars, and in August 1807, Copenhagen was bombed by the British fleet. This time, the city was utterly destroyed, and while a peace accord was signed in September of that year, Vir decided to leave the city that filled him with negative memories. He boarded a ship as a crew member and started his years-long journey. He traveled as a seaman and carried with him childhood trauma, but also all the mental and spiritual provisions he gained during his university days, as well as through his family life. He never returned to Copenhagen. He traveled for 25 years, visiting the Mediterranean, Far East, and Asia as a romanticist, a traveler explorer. He thought of a journey as a spiritual experience with transformational power and as a genuine adventure in new worlds. During his time, he journeyed as far as India and stayed for short periods of time in many Mediterranean ports, in Atrani, Italy, Istanbul, Corfu, Malta, Cyprus, and Smyrna. While at sea and moving from port to port, Vir made his first attempt at serious writing. In 1812, he penned the book Nordic Sagas, which became the seminal work on Nordic mythology in that century. Quite a feat for a relatively young and unknown writer. His travels made Vir excited but also homesick. So he turned to what he knew best, his traditional myths and legends. The book is born out of pure admiration and awe with the imagination of myth and the majestic tales of courage and heroism. It remains today one of the most loved books on the subject, especially by teenagers and young adults. In 1832, he returned to Denmark, brimming with experiences from his traveling. He chose Jutland, the city he had first loved as a student, as his base, where he lived and wrote his last book, a true testament, a poetic and philosophical composition of all his lived experience. His final years, he lived close to nature, in solitude, having only a cat as company. After his death and through his will, he entrusted his works, as well as his cat, to Frederick Grundtvig, his old friend. His work was published and was celebrated long after his death. His books were especially loved in Denmark for their ability to convey the feeling of metaphysical exoticism in the cold and austere north. And now we'll take some time to talk about his three books, his works. First of all, Nordic sagas. This book showcases Nemo Vir's deep understanding of Norse mythology. The tales of gods, giants, and other mythical creatures are brought to life with remarkable vividness. Steeped in the grandeur of the Romantic era, his writing style is replete with lyrical prose and ornate language that befits the subject matter. It is clear that the author has devoted a significant amount of time and research to the source material, and the results of his labors are truly impressive. The reader is left with a sense of wonder and awe at the majesty of the Norse legends. Now, our bicentennial edition, Marine Diaries, in which Vir includes more than just a sterile recounting of the places he has visited, more than just cataloging historical sites or landmarks. He's a true traveler, not a tourist. He finds joy in wandering and daydreaming, in special chance encounters with locals. He puts on paper all the feelings and thoughts that are born in this state, but most of all, he recounts his own transformation, a northern romantic who comes into contact with 19th century East. The journey transforms into a symbol as well as a tool of an internal quest, where lived reality becomes an instrument that sheds light on the traveler's inner self. And finally, Dreaming of Conflagration starts from the horror of the fire in his hometown that haunted his childhood, as well as the death of his father. Soon, Vir wanders through fire's multiple mythical symbolisms that he encountered in books, in his travels, and in the stories of the people he met. Fire as a threat, fire as terror, as well as its destructiveness, gradually give way to other aspects and functions of fire. Dreaming in front of the fireplace, purification, radiance, the need for change and transformation, symbolized by the alchemical salamander. Fire and heat as a bringer of life. Stories and images from India and Celtic traditions intersect with the Greek myth of Prometheus and the story of the philosopher Empedocles who fell in Mount Etna in order to join the cosmic fire. All of these myths, stories, and vignettes reflect in essence the author's journey and his reconciliation with the two sides of a cosmic archetype, life itself. Now, we hope that this short introduction of Vir's life and work whets your appetite for more from this quintessential Scandi romantic. Thank you again for taking this short break to get a glimpse into one of our bicentennial works. Thank you so much.